So in the last session, we have seen the Amazon machine image, the creation process and converting it to public. And then just we have seen how can we copy that AMI from one region to another region. Okay. So in this session, we will talk about a storage option for the EC2 instance, which is EBS, or we call it as Elastic Block Store. So whenever we create the EC2 instance, right? So we selected a storage space. Without a storage, you can't run any machine, right? So on AWS, whenever you create the EC2 instance, let us say this is the EC2 instance, right? And in every EC2 instance, at the time of creation, we will select the instance type. With the help of the instance type, you will get the CPU and RAM. So you will get CPU and RAM. Then we need the storage. Without a storage, you can't run an EC2 instance. So here, this is storage. This storage is offered to you using a service called Elastic Block Store. Elastic Block Store. Also, we call it as EBS. If you remember, whenever we create the Linux EC2 instance, we selected 8 GB storage space, right? And that 8 GB storage is called as a volume. We call this as volume. Simple thing. Whenever you purchase a hard disk, right? Storage, you call it as a hard disk, hard drive. On Amazon, technically on the AWS, we should call it as a volume. And this Elastic Block Store is block-based storage service. This is block-based storage service. So what does that mean? Do we have any other types of storages? Yes. Object-based storage, network storage. We have a multiple things. Block-based storage means, or in a simple way, I can say, for the EC2 instances, the drives, the C drive, D drive, E drive, must be a block-based storage. The storage for your EC2 instances or your computers must be the block-based storage, and that storage is offered to you with the help of EBS service. And let us say if I want to create 8 GB volume, sorry, 8 GB storage. Or let us say, assume it is going to be a Windows. I will select 30 GB, right? And what is this 30 GB? This is a volume. This is a storage volume. And in the volumes, we have two types of volumes available. We have two types of volumes available. One is a root volume, and the second one is EBS volume, or we call it as additional volume. What is the difference between these two? Root volume means in which the operating system is getting installed. Let us say here, whenever we have selected 30 GB at the time of EC2 instance creation, in that 30 GB volume, the operating system will be installed. And that is a root volume. And in Windows, that is represented as a C drive. Let us say if I create a 10 GB additional volume, which is a D drive. This is the additional volume or EBS volume. I can say extra volumes on your EC2 instance, like a D drive, E drive, F drive, right? Those are called as additional drives or EBS volumes. And the volume in which the operating system is getting installed is called as a root volume. And the other things are known as additional volumes. So here, whenever you terminate or whenever you delete the EC2 instance, the root volume will be deleted automatically along with the instance. Whereas these additional volumes will be preserved by default and we must delete manually. What happens if you don't delete? Your server will be deleted, root volume will be deleted, but the additional volume will exist in your AWS account, which will consume some space, and you will be charged for keeping that volume in your AWS account. So here I can say this is the EC2 instance. This is the EC2 instance. Let us say this is created in US East 1A. There's the availability zone in US East 1 region. For every EC2 instance, there must be a root volume, right? So here, let us say this is the 30 GB, which is going to be the C drive, and this is known as root volume. And I want additional drive because I want to store some backups, or I want to store some logs, or I want to install some database related things. Obviously, I prefer additional volume. It is going to be the 10 GB. Now, I need to attach it. I need to attach it. Like if you purchase a hard disk, right? You must connect to the computer, right? If you purchase a pen drive, you must connect that pen drive to your laptop, or else you can't use that pen drive. So here the limitation or the condition is the EBS volume can be attached to the EC2 instance, which is in the same availability zone. What does that mean? Let us say here, I have a two EBS volumes. One is a 10 GB volume and the second one is a 20 GB volume. 10 GB volume is in US East 1A availability zone, and this is in US East 1B availability zone. They are in the same region, but they are in two different availability zones. A, B, these are the availability zones. What does that mean here is the EBS volume can be attached to the instance which is in the same availability zone. If you have an, okay, so this is possible and this is not possible. Why? Because the 20 GB volume is in 1B availability zone, whereas the server is in 1A availability zone. Your EC2 instance and the EBS volume must be in the same availability zone. This is the first point. And the second point, so here I have another EC2 instance, right? And this EC2 instance is also in the same availability zone, US East 1A. Now, can I attach like this? Can I attach like this? I mean, okay, let me rephrase the question. Can I attach the 10 GB volume to multiple instances at a time? Just assume you have a pen drive. You have a pen drive of 16 GB pen drive. Can you connect that pen drive to multiple laptops at a time? You cannot, right? You can connect only to one laptop like this. You can use it. Then you can disconnect to the server 1 and you can connect to the server 2. That's how you can use the EBS volumes. What is the use of this? Generally, in the real time, we don't switch like this. But whenever, let us say it is connected to this EC2 instance and you stored some data, right? Some important data. And that data I need on the second server also. Instead of copying, simply I can disconnect and just I can connect here. I can read all the data from second server. Just for copy purpose, we can switch the volume from one EC2 instance to another EC2 instance. Okay, right. So first what we do is let us write down few important points about the EBS, what we discussed till now, and then we will see how to create and all the things, how to create the volume and all. So EBS offers block-based storage and can be used as storage for EC2 instances. Storage for EC2 instances. And whatever the storage we get, we call the EBS storage as a volume, a 10 GB volume, 20 GB volume, 30 GB volume, and so on. And there are two types of volumes. One is a root volume, and the second one is additional volume, or few people call it as EBS volume. Technically, both are EBS volumes only. Okay. What is the difference between these two? Root volume is the volume in which the operating system gets installed. Example, C drive. Example, C drive. Additional volume. Extra volumes for the instance to store logs, data, etc. If you ask me the example, D drive, E drive, etc. D drive, E drive, these are the examples of the additional volumes. Okay. And EBS volumes can be attached to the EC2 instance in the same availability zone. Same availability zone. You can't attach the EBS volume to an EC2 instance which is in a different availability zone. So technically speaking, you cannot attach the volume to an instance which is in a different availability zone. So simply we can say you cannot attach the volume to the instance in a different region, because simple thing, we cannot attach the same region which is a different availability zone. Let us say you have a house in which you have three different rooms. You are sitting in room 1 and the computer is in room 1. Means the pen drive can be connected to the computer which is in the room 1 only. You cannot connect to room 2, room 3, room 4 computers. This is a simple thing, right? So forget about the computer which is in a different building. You cannot connect the pen drive to the different building. Okay. And here Amazon is offering different types of EBS volumes. Depending on usage, they are offering different types of EBS volumes. So let me list out the things first. Types of EBS volumes. The first one is general purpose SSD. Okay, before getting into this, in the market, we have two categories of hard disk storages available. One is SSD and the second one is HDD, magnetic drive. On Amazon, you can get both the type of storage options. You can get either SSD or HDD. Depends on your requirement. General purpose SSD is the first one, right? In which we have two subcategories. One is GP2 and the second one is GP3. Then we have a provisional IOPS SSD. Next type of volume, in which we have two subtypes, IO1 and IO2. And the third one, throughput optimized HDD, which is also known as ST1. Throughput optimized HDD, which is also known as ST1. Then we have a cold storage, which is SC1. And then we have a magnetic, which is also called as a standard. These are the different types of EBS volumes. Depends on your requirement. What is your business use case? right? Based on that, you have to choose the appropriate. Let us say I need 64 terabytes of a storage, single volume. Means I can't select a GP2 or GP3. The only option is IO2. Okay, let me give you a brief differentiation between SSD and HDD. For the SSD hard drives, the performance can be measured in terms of IOPS. In SSD, performance can be measured in terms of IOPS, input and output operations per second. Means that hard disk can handle how many input and output operations per second. Or we can say IOPS is the dominant performance. Okay, in SSD, performance can be measured in terms of IOPS. Whereas in regular HDD, performance can be measured in terms of throughput. What is the throughput? MB per second. Throughput, data transfer. How much data can be transferred per second? I will give a simple example. The throughput optimized and cold storages. Generally, the throughput optimized hard disk can be used for the use cases in which you have to read huge data, read the huge data, like or transfer huge data, not only the read, transfer huge data, like file servers, data processing kind of a thing. Whereas the SSDs can be used where the application is looking for more input and output operations per second. And the cold HDD, the use case is to store the backups because that is very low performance hard disk. And magnetic is the outdated one, or we can say previous generation, which is not recommended to use. And again, no need to remember what is the GP2 characteristics, what is the GP3 characteristics and all. While creating the volumes, I will show you the minimum and maximum what we call that what we call that the threshold values. What is the minimum hard disk size you can create? What is the maximum hard disk size we can create and all? So for that reason, what I do is I will create two Windows EC2 instances in US East 1A and US East 1B availability zones. Because to attach the volumes, we must need the EC2 instances, right? That's why I will create two Windows EC2 instances in two different availability zones. Then create EBS volumes of different types and observe the characteristics. Means like threshold values. What is the maximum size of the volume we can create in each type of EBS volume and all the things. Okay, so first let me create the EC2 instance. Okay, here is the EC2. Launch instance. I will name it as a server 1. The same way how we created the EC2 instance. There is no difference. Okay, let me choose 2019 operating system. Here I am selecting T2.micro. Right now I'm in Northern Virginia. Key pair. Okay. Edit. This is the Windows machine, right? So US East 1A. Where is that? 1A. Okay, here it is. What security group we have to choose? What traffic to be allowed? Windows RDP. 30 GB storage. And this you can see here. This is the root volume. This is the root volume. And what are the types? GP2, GP3. I IO1, IO2, SC1, ST1, and magnetic. These are the types. But why these two are not available? The reason is cold HDD and throughput optimized HDDs cannot be used as a root volumes of the EC2 instances. But you can use them as additional volumes of the EC2 instance. If I click add new volume, what happened here? It's showing as a EBS volume, which is additional volume. While creating the additional volume, you can see cold, you can see throughput, whatever you want. Okay, right. So here, let me launch server one in 1A. Let me create one more. So what exactly we are doing here is, this is the server one. And we are going to create another one called server two. Then we will create multiple volumes. Okay, so this is in US East 1B availability zone. And here, this is in US East 1A availability zone. Okay, now I'm going to create multiple volumes. This is going to be like 1 GB. And then I will create one more 2 GB. I will create one 4 GB. I will create one 125 GB, and so on. While creating, we will observe. So what I do is, I will create this in 1C availability zone. And this I will create in 1B availability zone. And then I will create these two in 1A availability zone. Okay, right. So let me create the server 2 also. The same procedure I will use, and let me launch server 2. Launch instance. Let me name it as a server 2. This I want to create in 1B availability zone. Here it is, US East 1B availability zone. Let me select an existing security group, which will allow Windows RDP traffic, 30 GB, right? Okay, let me click on launch instance. Now the instances are getting created. They will be ready in just a couple of minutes. Now, let us create the EBS volumes of different types in different availability zones. Let us create it. How to create the volume? Now the instances are running. Now I want to create the volumes. To create the volumes, so here on the left side in the EC2 service, there is one option called Elastic Block Store, right? So here, click on volumes, click on volume. And you can see there are already two volumes, but these two are root volumes. But those two are root volumes because we have already two EC2 instances, right? They are already having two root volumes. Those two are these two 30 GB, 30 GB. Okay. Now what I want to do, I want to create this 1 GB volume. I want to create this 1 GB volume. So here, let me create it. Click on create volume, which is on the top right corner. Okay, volume type. The first option itself, volume type. Just go through the list of all volume types available. What all you can see? GP2, GP3, IO1, IO2, SC1, ST1, magnetic, right? Okay. First, let me choose GP2. Okay. So what is the minimum size of the volume? 1 GB. What is the maximum size? 16 GB, which means this you can create minimum 1 GB volume. You can't create a 0.1 GB like 100 MB, 200 MB, which is not possible. You can create 1, 2 GB, or you can create, you can't create 0.2, 0.5 GB and so on. Minimum size is the 1 GB and maximum is 16,384 GB. Means if your requirement is up to 16 terabytes, you can go with GP2. But another one is the IOPS performance. For this IOPS, you will get up to 100 IOPS. Means for this 1 GB volume, you will get 100 IOPS. What if I go with 10? Same again, 100. What if I go with 100? I'm getting 300 IOPS. Means for every 1 GB of a storage, for every 1 GB of a storage, you will get 3 IOPS, 3 input and output operations per second on the volume. Then you might ask a question. If I select 1 GB, I should get 3 IOPS. But why I am getting 100? Because minimum of 100 IOPS you will get. Minimum is the 100 IOPS, or else hard disk performance will be worst. Okay. If I go with 1000 GB, how many IOPS I will get? My hard disk performance will be 3000 IOPS. What if I go with 5000? I will get 15,000 IOPS. Okay, what if I go with 10,000? I should get 30,000 IOPS, right? But what is happening here? 16,000 is the maximum IOPS you will get in GP2. And that too, you can't choose the performance what you need. The performance will be automatically decided based on the size of your hard disk. Okay, let me go with 1 GB because this GP2 is free up to 30 GB per month. So freely I can create without any extra charges. Availability zone, I have to choose US East 1A, and the tags. Let me add a tag like meaningful name. I will say 1 GB dash GP2 dash 1A. Based on this tag, I can identify, okay, this is a 1 GB drive of a GP2 type, which is in 1A availability zone. Let me click on create volume. The volume got created, right? 1 GB volume. Now let me create another volume. Now this time I will go with GP3. Okay, what is the minimum size? 1 GB. Maximum size 16 terabytes. So no change or no difference between GP2 and GP3 with respect to the size. But you can see the performance. Even with 1 GB, you are getting 3000 IOPS. But in the GP2, if you create, let us say in the GP2, if you create a 10 GB storage, you will get 100 IOPS. Whereas here, you are getting minimum 3000 IOPS. Minimum is a 3000 IOPS. And here, I can change it. I can change it. 5000, yes, it supports. Let me go with the 10,000, but it is not accepting because it will allow 500 IOPS for every 1 GB. There you will get 3 IOPS for 1 GB, and here you will get 500 IOPS. Let me show you. But maximum is 16,000 only. In the GP2 or GP3, maximum is 16,000. But minimum, you will get a 3,000 with a small, like let us say, if your requirement is with a smaller storage, you would like to get maximum performance, right? In such cases, you have to use GP3. It's a cheaper because you're getting more performance with less storage also. And also you will get some throughput also, minimum 125 MB per second throughput you will get. Okay, let me choose 1 GB. US East 1 B. Oh, sorry, wait. Okay, it is also I decided to create in 1A. Yeah, 1A tag. Let me use a name tag. What it is going to be 2 GB, 2 GB, GP3-1A. Create volume. Now let me create one more in a different availability zone. So here let me go with create volume IO1. So what is the minimum size of IO1? 4 GB. Means you can't create 1 GB, 2 GB volumes. Maximum is 16 terabytes. And remember, GP2, GP3 are a free tier eligible, but IO1, IO2, these are not free tier eligible. From the first minute onwards, I will be charged if I create. Okay. So here, IO1, you will get minimum is 4 GB and maximum is 16 terabytes. IOPS, you can start from minimum 1000 and maximum you can go for 5000 for 100 GB. It is like you can see up to 50 IOPS per 1 GB of a storage. For every 1 GB of a storage or hard disk, you can get up to 50 IOPS. And that too customizable, you can customize. Minimum is a 4 GB, maximum is 16 terabytes, which means if your requirement is a 25 GB storage, GP2, GP3, IO1, all these three are out of options. All these three are out of options because that doesn't support what we call that, the 20 GB storage. Now let me go with IO2. See here, what is the minimum size? 4 GB. And what is the maximum size? 64 terabytes. 64 terabytes. If I go for IO1, max is 16 terabytes, right? If I enter 16,384 GB, how many IOPS I can get? I know that it is 64,000. If I go with 64,001, which is not possible. So IO1 supports up to 64,000 IOPS performance. Whereas if I go for IO2, 65,536 is the maximum size. And how many IOPS you can get? 256,000. 2,56,000 IOPS you can get in IO2. So the purely it is depends on your requirement. What is your how many IOPS you need and how much storage you need. Based on that, you have to choose what type of a storage you have to choose, what type of storage you have to select and all the things. Okay, here I will go with IO1, 4 GB and 100 IOPS. And availability zone, I will choose 1B. Let me add a tag. 4 GB dash IO1 dash 1B. While you're doing the practical, no need to create, just simulate the creation process and observe all these values. Okay, let me create one more volume finally. So let me go with cold HDD. What is the minimum size? 125 GB is the minimum size. Maximum size 16 terabytes. IOPS not applicable. You can get some decent IOPS. That's it. Throughput, you can get 6 MB per second for 500 GB storage. If I go for 125 GB, I will get just 2 MB per second. That's why cold HDD type is only recommended for backup purpose. If I go with throughput optimized, if I go with 125 GB, at least I'm getting 5 MB per second. Let me do 1D, 1D availability zone, add a tag, name, 125 GB dash ST1 dash 1D, just a meaningful value, create volume. So the volume got created, right? Okay. Now here, volumes got created like this, but they are not attached to any EC2 instance yet. Now I want to attach this 125 GB volume, 125 GB volume with server 2 or server 1. One after one, I will try. Is it possible or not? Is it possible or not? Can I attach that 125 GB volume either to server 1 or server 2. And you can see here, this is created in US East 1C availability zone. The basic rule is the EBS volume can be attached to the EC2 instance, which is in the same availability zone. So this is 1C and this is 1A, which is not possible. It is 1C and this is 1B. Again, it is not possible. Means you cannot connect 125 GB drive to any of our EC2 instances. They are not in the same availability zone. Let me show you that practically. So this is the 125 GB volume, right? I am in the volume section, 125 GB. And you can see type is ST1, size is 125 GB. And if I scroll a little bit aside, let me refresh. This is the one. In which availability zone? 1D. And also, if you observe, the state of the volume has two different states, right? One is available and the second one is in use. That I will explain in some time. Now, how to attach this volume? Select the volume, actions, attach volume, and here to which instance you would like to attach. Click here. It will not show any. What is the message here? No matching, running, or a stopped instances in US East 1D availability zone, which means in my AWS account, there are no EC2 instances available in this particular availability zone. Okay. Now, what I want to do is I want to attach 1 GB volume to server 1, and both are in US East 1A availability zone. Both are in the same availability zone, which is possible, right? Whenever EBS volume and the EC2 instance both are in the same availability zone, you can attach it like this. This I'm going to attach. Already it is having a 30 GB C drive and it will get 1 GB as a D drive. Let us verify that. Okay. First, let us attach it and then let us use it. How to do that? Select the 1 GB volume, actions, attach. See here, you can see server 1 because server 1 is in the same availability zone, same as the EBS volume. Select that. And device name, you can choose a device name. Generally, for the root volume, the device name will be /dev/sda1. For the additional data volumes, it should be XVD, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, like that. Okay. So let me choose XVDB as a name of the volume. Attach volume means the volume is attached. Now, I would like to show you a point. This 1 GB volume. Earlier, the volume state was available, but now the volume state is shown as in use. What is the meaning of that? If the volume is attached to any EC2 instance, the state will be shown as a in use. If the volume is not attached to any EC2 instance, then the state will be displayed as available. Available means the volume is ready and available for attaching to any EC2 instance. Okay, now, how can I know that this EBS volume is attached to which EC2 instance? So here, just scroll aside, attached resources to which server? Server 1 and XVDB as a name. No need to remember that name. Okay, right. Now let us log into server 1 and observe that 1 GB drive. Log into server 1 and observe the 1 GB storage. Observe the 1 GB, like create some file, delete some file, modify some. Let us do some operations on that. Okay. So for that, we need to know the login details, right? What all we need? First, we need the public IP of server 1. Then we need the username of server 1. And then we need the password. right? These are the three things which we must know. There is a Windows machine, so we have to use RDP protocol, right? Okay, let me go to the instances. Server 1, here is the IP. Username, obviously administrator. Password. How to get the password? Where we can see the password of the Windows EC2 instance? Anybody? How to get the password of the Windows EC2 instance? Simple. Select the EC2 instance, click on connect, select the RDP client. Here, click on get password and upload the private key which we have used at the time of creating the EC2 instance. So, okay. Which one I have chosen? Virginia SPZ3. Yeah, okay. I think earlier I selected the wrong one. Okay, so here is the password. Now, how to log in? We need to open just remote desktop connection tool. What is the IP address? 54.81.181.209. Click on connect, and this is the password. Oh, this is the password. Username is administrator, and here is the password. Yes. So what you guys can think, whenever I open my computer or this PC in that EC2 instance, we should see C drive, two drives, C drive with 30 GB, D drive with 1 GB, right? Let us check that. We have some security things on the Windows machines by default. And those options will be enabled by AWS for all the Windows EC2 instances. Means whenever a new hard disk is attached to your EC2 instance, by default, that will be in the offline mode. Physically, it is connected, but it is in the offline state. We need to make it online. Okay, just wait for 1 minute, 1 or 2 minutes, because for the first time we are logging in. So it has to create the profile and all the things for you. Okay, let me open the file explorer. And let me click on this PC, and I can see only the C drive, which is 30 GB. But where is the 1 GB? 1 GB additional drive. So by default, on EC2, on AWS, for all Windows EC2 instances, there is a policy applied, which means whenever a new hard disk attached for the very first time, that hard disk will be in offline mode. Let me write down that. By default, all new volumes are connected to Windows EC2 instances in offline mode. So we have to make it online. And those EBS volumes are available without any file system. Means whenever you purchase a brand new hard disk, you can't use it directly without creating a file system. So file system is used to keep all the data, like all the files and all the things. So by default, there is no file system. In our words, we can say formatting the hard disk. Whenever you purchase a pen drive, whenever you purchase an actual hard disk, first thing what we do, we'll format it, right? So what is the meaning of formatting? Not deleting the data. Formatting is like deleting the file system and creating a brand new file system on the storage, so that your hard disk will be ready, to use and store the data. So what we have to do first thing, Follow the below steps to make the 1 GB attached EBS volume usable. So first thing what you have to do is make it online, then create partition and file system. Then only you can see it. Then only you can see it. How to do that? Simple thing. So this is our EC2 instance in which we don't have the D drive visible. So here, whenever you open this PC, you are not able to see. So we have two different options to get into the disk management. There is an option called disk management. First option is click on start. You can see one option called server manager. Click on server manager. Then on the left side, click on local server, right? Select the local server. Then on the top right side, click on tools. On the top right side, you can see tools. And there is an option called computer management. Click on this computer management. We are running on a 1 GB RAM, so it will be a little bit slow, but that's okay for practice purpose, learning purpose. Okay, this is the computer management, right? Let me maximize it. So on the left side, you can see storage and disk management. Select the disk management, which is under storage. So can you see 1 GB drive here? What is the state? Offline. The disk is offline because of policy set by an administrator. That is the one. And the second one is it is unallocated disk space. It doesn't have a partition. It doesn't have a file system. Means it cannot be used. If you see the C drive with 30 GB, you can see healthy, which is having NTFS file system. Okay. To get this page, this is the one way. The easiest way to get into the disk management is click on start, open run. I mean, type run. You can see a run prompt, this one, or you can press Windows R also. Here, you need to type disk mgmt.msc. Disk mgmt.msc. Don't by heart the commands. See here, you got that window. The disk mgmt means disk management. .msc stands for Microsoft Console. Disk management window has been opened. So first thing what we have to do, we need to make this 1 GB drive as an online. Let me right click on disk one, not on this black on unallocated space, because first we need to make it online. Right click on the disk one left side, click on online. Then you can see which is not initialized. First time we need to initialize it. Right click, initialize disk, and click on OK. Now what is the status? Disk one is online, but it is unallocated storage. Unallocated means which can't be used. If I go to my computer, still I cannot see the D drive because the D drive is not in usable state. How to make that as a usable? We need to create a partition. How? Right click on the unallocated space, click on new simple volume, next, next, finish. Next, you can see assign the following drive letter. D means this 1 GB will become a D drive on that EC2 instance. Next. So see here you can see file system is NTFS. Next, finish. Now what happened? Healthy. Now let me close it. And if I see my computer, this PC, can you see the D drive? Not only on AWS, If you purchase a brand new hard disk for a server in your office also, you have to create a volume, you need to create a file system. If that is a Linux machine, then NTFS doesn't work. There's the ext3, ext4. These are the different types of file systems suitable for Linux machines. So here you can create some data. So I can say test file created at some data, some meaningful information I have entered. This is how you can attach the EBS volumes and all to the EC2 instances. Okay. And this volume cannot be attached to server 2. Why? Because server 2 is in a different availability zone. But what if I need the same data to be available on server 2? There is a way, but not the direct way. You can't detach it and you can't attach it to server 2. Like right now, this is what happened, right? You can't detach and you can't attach like this directly. That is not possible, but there is a way. What is that way is, I mean, we don't discuss that in detail. Just I'll give you some overview. How it is possible is you can create a backup that is called as snapshot. From the snapshot, you need to create a volume. While creating the volume, choose 1B and attach it. What happens whenever you create a snapshot? Whatever the data exists, that data will be automatically included into the snapshot. From the snapshot, we are going to create a volume so that the same data will be placed into the new volume. And while creating the volume, I will choose the required availability zone. My server 2 is in 1B and I will choose 1B and I can attach it. This is how you can do it. But what is a snapshot? How to create it? What is a manual snapshot, automated snapshot? That part we can discuss in the next coming session. Okay, right. So now, whatever we discussed about the EBS, we are not yet completed. We have like 1 or 2 more days, at least 1 day or minimum 2 days required to complete the EBS topics, like including backups, volume management, like how to increase the size, how to change the type of the volume. We have multiple things to cover that we can cover in the next 1 or 2 sessions. But whatever we covered as of now, are you guys clear or any questions? Are you guys clear or any questions? And one more thing, uh, 1 second. Today is Thursday, right? Tomorrow is Friday. Okay. So tomorrow I'm not going to be available. I will be out of station tomorrow. So next session will be on Monday. Okay. I will upload these notepads and all the things. Mostly by tomorrow morning, I will upload and I will share the link into the Telegram. Okay. If you are not a part of Telegram, just send me a message on the Telegram so that I will add you guys. This is my Telegram ID @funny_Ponna. Right? You can send a message and I can add you into the Telegram group, or I can share the link to the Telegram group so that you can click and you can join. Okay, so I got a question like among all these types of volumes which are chargeable. Okay, actually everything is chargeable. I guess your question is like what are free tier eligible, right? So GP2, GP3, and the last one is a magnetic. These are a free tier eligible. That doesn't mean you can create unlimited. Under free tier, you can create up to 30 GB storage per month. Again, that doesn't mean for every instance you can create 30 GB. All together, you can create 30 GB. Cumulatively, you can use 30 GB volumes per month under free tier. That's why I said never ever create IO1, IO2. I created and I showed you, right? There is no difference in the process. Only difference is performance. How the hard disks uh, give the performance, that is different. The process of creation, maintenance, volume management, backups, everything is same for all types of EBS volumes. Okay, right. Any other questions? Okay, so it seems everyone is clear. So let us stop the session here and let us continue on Monday. Okay, even though we don't have a classes, if you are getting any questions while you're doing the practicals, just feel free to reach me on Telegram and I can help you out. Right? Okay, thank you everyone. Let's continue on Monday.